Remember when our president, Jeff Morgan, decided it was a great idea to hire like tens of thousands of IRS agents? You know, I knew some people that were leaning one way, not to the right. And I heard insane comments. Them thinking, literally, believing the rhetoric, believing the narrative. And they would say it out loud. Oh, those agents are going to go and take all the money back that was stolen from the government, and that should be helping people, because those people, the really, really rich people, they're all out there just stealing money. And I remember looking at one gentleman and saying, you honestly do not believe that those thousands, tens of thousands of agents aren't coming for people like you? And he looked me right in the eye and says, absolutely. Well, I got a story for you right now, and it's hard not to get sarcastic, but I believe that we are coming into some very, very challenging times. And I'm going to be honest with you. The reason why I have started so many businesses, turned side hustles into legitimate businesses, is because I want to pay less in taxes. And I don't cheat on my taxes because I don't believe that I could be blessed if I cheat in one aspect of my life and then ask for blessings in the other. So I think this is very, very important to understand why it is so vital for you to start businesses and be prosperous and find legal tax loopholes. Real estate is the number one easiest way to wealth when it comes to tax, paying less in taxes. And every dollar you spend is a dollar earned. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. If you don't get that premise, you're probably not going to be very successful. And I've had lots of people in the past based on the vehicles that I drive, the little old beaters, because they're getting 40 miles a gallon, old Honda Civics from the late 80s or early 90s, and them mocking me, not realizing that, and they're all poor people. Well, there's a story here about the IRS, and they just gave a warning. Those tens of thousands of agents, they're not for the uber rich. Check this out. Got my notes. I know it's super fancy. It's getting bright. I'm using the truck to block the sun. Here we go. Side down. Out of Zero Hedge. IRS chief hints at possibly audits may rise for Americans earning under $400,000. Now let's read between the lines. Because he comes out and says possibly, it means yes. And when he means under 400,000, it doesn't mean 399,000 and up. We're talking across the board. That's what all those agents are coming for. And that's what people need to get ready for. Here, let me get close to the truck here. Sunrise is beautiful, but it is bright. All right, here we go. This is out of Zero Hedge. IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel faced a grilling by lawmakers on Capitol Hill this past week, where he hinted that there's a chance that the agency will, contrary to its repeated, it's early, give me some coffee. You want to make fun of this stuff, but this is serious because there's a lot of people out there that are not being honest on their taxes. And as much as I hate taxes, all right, I hate them, can't stand them. This is one fight you don't want to fight. I'm going to get a lot of hate down in the comments. But look there are more people, and I know people that have done this. Let me move this around a little bit more. Sorry. I'm not joking. I want to joke around about this stuff, but it's serious. I know people that spent so much time trying to cheat the government only to find themselves completely broke, bankrupt, and almost in prison. All the while, they could have started legal businesses, legal entities to save them tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's very important that you learn. People think that starting businesses or doing things a little different, spending a couple hours a week in books on taxes, just doing things a little different can save you so much money, but people would rather cheat. And that's not how you get ahead. And I believe that there is a plan, and I'm dead serious. There is a plan to ensnare and entrap a lot of good-hearted Americans that are so beat down and hate this system. And it's going to send them into the poorhouse. So this is a legitimate warning. And I hope people heed this warning. Trust me, I can't stand paying taxes. So my goal is to pay as little as possible legally, because I need my mind freed up to go out and crush it in other aspects. Here we go. So Danny Werfel faced this grilling on Capitol Hill. He said he hinted at that chance that Americans earning under $400,000 were going to be audited. Said the question of whether the IRS will use some of the $80 billion or so in funding to boost, our funding boost, to increase tax enforcement of people making less than $400,000 has been a contentious issue. Let me stop and also say, this is how they got the IRS in existence, period. They lied to the people and said that it would be for the rich people. Income tax was only for the wealthy people. This is exactly what they're doing. They got the exact same playbook as the early 1900s. They're saying, don't worry, these, 40,000 agents or whatever it is we just hired, this $80 billion in funding for the IRS, this isn't for you, it's for the rich people. I'm telling you right now, it's not. It is not. This is a trap. Start a business. And as long as you start, I'm serious. As long as you start a business that you are passionate about, that something you love, you can't lose as long as it's something you love and you don't get into debt. You start small with cash, little by little. This is what I've been teaching people for over a decade. It's so important that you do this. All right. The IRS and Treasury Department officials have pledged not to increase the audit rates for this group of Americans, while Republicans and others have argued that this pledge is either false or wishful thinking. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has directed the IRS not to raise the audit rates above historical levels for this group of taxpayers, while Mr. Werfel has repeatedly made the same pledge. You know that's impossible. What are you going to do with all those employees? What are you going to do with all those employees that you just hired? Oh, don't worry, we're not going to do any more audits, so just sit back and watch Netflix. Right now, the government is insolvent and they're looking for a way to raise money. Like, realize that they are they are borrowing trillions of dollars a year now. This is insane. They borrowed over $1 trillion from the months of July to September. They are insolvent. They don't bring in enough taxes. This is not a joke. It says here, but a watchdog recently cast doubt on this promise, warning that Americans making less than $400,000 could inadvertently get caught in an enforcement dragnet because the IRS doesn't have a clear definition of high income. Isn't that interesting? Let me just back up because this thing just looks horrible. Oh, we didn't know what high income was, so we just went ahead and did it for everyone. Isn't it just interesting how just the definition of a word can change everything? And that's what we're seeing over and over. I know it's annoying when you see the shadows and stuff. Sorry, I'm all over the map. But this has got me fired up, and it's very important that people understand this. I deal with fools all the time. And what I define as a fool is a headline reader that speaks like he knows what the article is about, but hasn't read the article. A fool is someone that has no life experience, but he watched a YouTube video, so all of a sudden knows everything, and he's arguing every single little thing and has never even done it, so doesn't understand that he or she is completely wrong. And the problem is that makes up a majority of the population right now. So when we're talking about the president hiring and giving all this money to the IRS, oh yeah, and they're buying a ton of weapons and bullets right now, and they have job openings. And it says in the job opening that they scrapped when it hit the media, but hey, you may need to use lethal force. Why would the IRS need that? Look, I'm here to tell you there are ways of paying little to no taxes in the IRS tax code. It's actually built in a way that encourages you to start businesses. Because the IRS ultimately knows, and the government knows, that it would behoove a certain percentage of the population to start businesses and become employers so that the sheeple have a place to go. Now, this isn't for everybody. And even if you don't want to start a business, heed this warning in the sense that you're like, you know what? I need to, if I'm being shady on my stuff, I need to not be shady. Because honestly, you can never expect to be blessed in one aspect of your life if you're lying on the other side, all right? That is just straight up the truth. And I want people to understand, hit the thumbs up button if you agree with that, because I'm going to tell you what, the AI is not going to like this. Because we're coming into a point in life, and this is serious, that people warning others are going to be silenced. Now, I fear God and care more about good-hearted Americans, good-hearted humans all around the world, more than I fear intimidation. Because the truth is, I just want to help people. And I will tell you this, when you help people, you become rich, you become successful. Because when you have a solution to people's problems, you make money. And they make money. I don't really think that a lot of human beings understand that concept, because most human beings are just holding on to stuff. And that's why with the IRS, they're like fighting the IRS all the time. And I watched someone that I truly loved almost go to prison for it. It was insane. When in all reality, all they do is open a tax code and, oh, if I do this, I don't have to pay taxes. If I do this, I pay less taxes. Oh, if I do this, you know, it's insane. This is very serious stuff. All joking aside with the cardboard, it's serious. It says, meanwhile, the latest data on the tax gap, which is the difference between taxes owed and paid to the government, show that it has jumped from 601 billion to 688 billion, putting pressure on the IRS to ramp up enforcement and bring in more money for all of the Jeff Borgen, can't say the name anymore, administration's big spending plans. At the October 24th hearing on Capitol Hill, Representative Gary Palmer pointed out that former IRS Commissioner John Koloshkin once testified that increasing tax audits as a way to reduce the tax gap was not an advisable strategy. He says, one of your predecessors, John whatever, I can't pronounce it, testified before this committee in 2015, and he said it would not be advisable to audit your way out of a tax gap. Yet that's exactly what you're trying to do, Mr. Palmer said. In a bid to increase tax collections, the IRS has vowed to increase tax enforcement on corporations and high-income filers in a sweeping historic crackdown on what it says are wealthy tax evaders. I'm telling you right now, that is rhetoric. I'm telling you right now, this is exactly how the IRS came to be. This is exactly how income tax started at the beginning of last century. This is not a joke. They always fool the people. They confuse the people. They say it's not for you, it's for the rich. And then just like in this story, they said, we don't have a definition. What was the definition right here? We don't have a definition of high income earners. They didn't have a definition back then of who the rich were. So what they did is they just started, here's the rich level, and then here's the rich level, and then here's the rich level, until it hits every single person in the country. You're all rich. Well, let me ask you this. Type 1 if you don't feel rich. Type 2 if you do. Now, I know that's a philosophical question at some point, but it's also, I'm just talking about the money in your bank account. Do you feel rich? And the fact of the matter is, 99% of the country do not feel rich. It's hard when you see the future ahead. And it's not because I'm prophetic, it's because you use history as the measuring stick. And history proves all they're doing is fooling you. So I'm here to tell you, there's certain things you can't fight a certain way. But I'll tell you this. Now think about this, and this is very serious. If everyone started a business, because we have to bring manufacturing, the government's hell-bent on destroying our country, and they're shipping off jobs to other countries like China. They're busy with that. Corporate America's doing that. What if the small, see, remember the term mom and pop shop? I love shopping at mom and pop shops. I love being a business owner myself, an entrepreneur myself. I love giving business to local. At a certain point though, especially if you have a lower income, it's hard to do that. You're forced into the large conglomerates like Walmart or like Target because the prices are cheaper and you're trying to stretch a dollar. But there's a point of pain that we're already beginning, like Jerome Powell said, our Federal Reserve Chairman said, there's pain coming, and they're doing this on purpose. And it's going to either crush us and break us forever as a country, or it can lead to a renaissance in economics and business, and I believe the latter. I believe in you. I believe that if we started millions of mom and pop businesses around the country, you see, we don't have to fear the large conglomerates in China because we can become those. We just have to start small and not get into debt. That's why companies go out of business. They get over leveraged. They start doing shady things and they collapse under the weight of their own greed. But if we were to start businesses and we were to start small and we were to start honest with cash and build up slowly, it says in the Bible that wealth accrued slowly lasts forever. And I'm paraphrasing right now. Please forgive me. I don't have that kind of memory, but I'm telling you right now, but he that gets wealth fast, gets riches fast, loses it just as fast. And if we were all to do that and then use the tax code to our advantage, that's actually winning because less money would come in. And then what happens is all these mom and pops, millions of them across the country, are so powerful when the government goes, okay, well, we're going to change the tax code to screw the businesses. Then we have so much wealth. You see, the reason why the government's winning right now is because the lobbyists get paid by the top 1%. But what if we made it the top 10%? Can you imagine if the wealth of this nation was held by just 10% of the people? 10% of the people will win the war every time. I know it sounds like a small number because governments used to send armies to go and fight for them so that they can enjoy the splendor, the plunder, and all that stuff. And they would slaughter young men and women. They wouldn't care. They'd send hundreds of thousands of them to die so that they can get the riches, right? But 10% of an army that isn't just a bunch of fools running into battle because they believe that their king wants the best for them, when in all reality, the king just wants the best for himself and his own family. If 10% had heart and turned, that would scare the piss out of the king. That's why we need to start businesses right now. So going on, we're talking about this IRS debacle right now with all those tens of thousands of agents, and it's being released in, hearings before Congress that the IRS may start. They're looking into audits below the $400,000 threshold point. And just know this: if you make $100,000, I'm telling you right now, you're in their crosshairs. The government is hurting for money right now. Our economy is collapsing. Our government is insolvent. This is not a joke. They just issued over $1 trillion in debt in a 3-month period. This is not a joke. I used to say to the guys at my fire station, there'll be a day where our debt is going up $1 trillion a month, and we are darn close to that. I wouldn't be surprised if our government issues $1 trillion in debt sometime in 1 month next year. And the big headlines yesterday was, "Don't worry, we're not gonna issue as much money we're gonna only do 700, like $750 billion in this quarter." I'm telling you right now, it's gonna get bad. Type 3 if you think it's bad already. Type 4 if you think it's bad, but it's going to get worse. And type 5 if you're just like, I don't care. Because those people, they just need to be able to speak. I just don't care. Cool. Let it happen to you. I'm not going to let it happen to me. So it says here, lower earning Americans to face more audits. After Mr. Palmer questioned Mr. Werfel, Virginia Fox pressed the IRS chief to explicitly guarantee that the IRS wouldn't raise audits on Americans making less than $400,000. The so-called Inflation Reduction Act gave the IRS an additional $80 billion in funding. Remember, that's the Inflation Reduction Act that was brought to you by our current El Presidente in Chief, Jeff Borgen. He says, I think we can all agree that it's an incredible amount of money, even after Congress trimmed this amount down to nearly $60 billion in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. How many new agents does the IRS plan to hire, she asked. Mr. Werfel sought to deflect by focusing on all other hires that the IRS is planning. He says, we're not hiring just agents. We're hiring customer service reps, accountants, agents. He said, we have published our 3-year view of staffing, which I'm very confident on because I can make key assumptions about the needs and market trends. We are at 90,000 today, and I think over the next 3 years, we should be over 100,000, but not much over 100,000. Type 6 if you believe him, that they're not going to hire more than 10,000 people right now. Type 7 if you think that's a crock of crap. He says, this is Mrs. Fox questioning still. You are guaranteeing that you will not increase the number of audits for people making less than $400,000 a year. He says, that's my marching order to the IRS, Mr. Warfel replied. Before asking, if we fall short of that, I will be held accountable for it, hinting that even the best of intentions, with the best of intentions, there's a chance that the IRS might fail to make good on this promise, much like the watchdog has warned. Look, the fact of the matter is, I'm at a risk of an audit, right? All the time. Every year I put in like my tithe, or I put in certain business write-offs, and they hit these flags and they go, hey, that's a flag, that's a flag. I remember my tax guy telling me once, he goes, man, you've hit like a ton of flags this year. And I said, but I've got receipts for it. He's all, yeah, don't worry about it. He goes, it's just the way the program's set up. But it's nerve-wracking. It's like, no, this is what the IRS says, and I've got all, and they, send it into the IRS, and they go, no, you're good. Here's your return. And I have to tell you that I think our country is moving into some very serious dark times. And the last thing we need as Americans is to be spending more energy trying, and I see this all the time with thieves. It's like they burn more energy in life trying to figure out how to rob somebody and putting their entire lives at risk, rather than just figuring out how to go make money, like real serious money. And I think that's what the problem with our country. We've gotten so lazy and so like chill from insurance benefits and from benefits packages, retirements and stuff. It's like you just sort of sit back and your life's on autopilot. And then before you know it, you wake up and you're like, my retirement package doesn't even keep up with inflation. What was I thinking all this time and burning all this energy? I mean, we have kids that are spending more time on video games than they should be, than trying to figure out how to go around the block and make money, washing cars. The truth is, our public is becoming our citizens are becoming dumb. Type 9 if you understand that and agree with it. Like, by and large, the human population is dumbing down. And I think that's exactly what certain people want. So this is the good news in all of this, is that's your competition. If you go and start a business of something you would like, even as easy as I tell people, like, where do I start? And I'm gonna start with that's why I started the side hustle course. I go, start with a garage sale. Go into your garage, figure out all the crap you got to sell, and then sell it. And then, figure out what sold good, and go buy some more and sell it again in another garage sale, and just watch the money start flowing in. And then you take that and you put it into this type of hustle and that type of hustle. And then you start your business and you boom, 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 and you build it in cash. And I've met people that have done this stuff and they're making $50,000, $60,000 extra a year. I know people that have built it up at well over 6 figures. I know some people that have made 7 figures. And we're not even talking a ton of employees. And it is scary when you don't know how to do it, but when you get around other entrepreneurs, it becomes easy. When you get around people, that is the key. Get around smart people, because this country, it's going to crap in a handbasket. If we don't rebuild our manufacturing base and our mom and pop business base and take it back, we're in trouble. Thank you so much for watching. The Economic Ninja is out.